Hello and welcome to my channel for news about the Fact Gossip 24. Please follow and subscribe for more information. Alana, your friend, is me. Let's begin.
Does Julia Trubkina want a baby? 90 Day, The Last Resort exposed the truth about her relationship with Brandon Gibbs. Julia Trubkina from 90 Day, The Last Resort has shared whether she can have a baby with Brandon Gibbs amid the struggles they've faced in their 5-year-old marriage. Julia from Russia and Brandon from Virginia had met through Brandon's friends, who saw Julia dancing at a club. Brandon flew to South Korea to meet Julia in person since he already knew he wanted her as a wife. Julia left her glamorous life behind to move to a farm, all for Brandon. Julia might not have expected that she'd spend years trying to find a job in the U.S. The past few years have also been difficult for Julia, who faced issues with her immigration, had to win Brandon's trust again after a cheating incident, and also failed to get along with her in-laws. Brandon and Julia were clashing when they decided to grow their family. Julia seemed to have completely given up on the idea of becoming a mom, while Brandon was refusing to give up. However, 90 Day, The Last Resort Season 2 revealed a different side to their painful story. Julia first opened up about the baby topic in May 2023. Julia shared how it didn't matter if she had been married for 3 years or 10, it does not oblige anyone to have children. Julia admitted that she and Brandon had not tried to have children as it had never been their goal. She didn't want to depend on society or stereotypes to dictate when the right time for having kids would be for her. However, Julia did make a shocking declaration in the same post. Julia added that no one knew what was going on between her and Brandon. They were focused on solving important questions about their future together. Julia also admitted to having health issues, which she had to deal with. She never specified them in the post. She added that she needed to work out the problems of having children in her head. In general, everything is gradual, Julia wrote cryptically in her note. Shortly after, Julia voiced her opinion on why she was not having kids and made it look like it was someone she'd discussed with Brandon. Brandon shared a different Instagram post of his own to suggest he didn't agree with her. Brandon wrote that he keeps hearing questions from everyone, and even he was asked for his opinion about children. Brandon admitted that it was hard to be 100% ready for this, but he also thought that part of her was already saying why not start trying. Brandon added that we had a conversation with Julia but that she had said no. Brandon did not specify who he meant when he said we, but it was a given that he meant his parents, Betty and Ron Gibbs. Brandon accepted that he did not have the right to force or do something without Julia's approval. In the same year, in October, Brandon seemed to share what was stopping him from having kids with Julia. He wrote about how he saw people having 2 or more children. "We are afraid that we cannot afford one child," Brandon confessed. Julia had liked the post by Brandon to show that she agreed with him. Brandon and Julia seemed to have put aside their differences in the past few months and decided to wait when it came to having a child. They were probably not ready yet, both mentally and financially, and had decided to wait until they could decide. However, as Brandon pointed out during an episode of 90 Day, The Last Resort, Julia was backing out after reaching a compromise. "If you want and I don't want, like, what point we are together?" Julia asked. Brandon reminded her she was open to having kids. However, Julia corrected him, saying she was open to talking about it. She told the therapist that she didn't want a kid. Julia didn't feel like she could make a compromise. Brandon said that if Julia didn't want to compromise on having kids, he was not ready to make a compromise on parents, referring to Julia wanting her parents to move to the U.S. from Russia. She was determined to get her parents to America even if Brandon didn't like it. However, Julia had some heartbreaking news to share when they filmed later episodes. she revealed that it was by choice that she was not ready to have kids with Brandon. It was seemingly a medical issue. She explained, "So when I say I don't want kids, and when I say I don't want because I'm so scared to be in reality. So, I can't have a kids." Julia burst into tears as she found it difficult to explain to herself. She revealed that she had started talking to Brandon about having kids, so she'd headed to Russia to see a doctor. Julia shared that Brandon kept telling her to seek a second opinion in America. Julia had gone home to meet her family in Russia and, because doctors in America are expensive, she decided to get a full body checkup done. Julia said she knew she had a couple of sickness, which she'd had for a long time. She expected the test to reveal these in the results, but she was told there was a possibility she couldn't have children. Julia didn't want to get a second opinion because hearing she couldn't have kids for the first time was already difficult. She wasn't sure she wanted to hear that again. Brandon didn't want Julia to give up just yet. He spoke about how people get different opinions from doctors all the time, but Julia was worried that it could turn out to be something that could break their relationship. Brandon told Julia that he wanted to have kids, which meant he wasn't ready to give up just yet. He thought it was something they would work together on and get around. Julia felt that if the second doctor said no, Brandon would leave her. No, and absolutely not, Brandon assured Julia. He promised Julia he was never going to go anywhere. He reminded her there were other methods out there. Brandon promised Julia he was going to be there for her physically and emotionally, whatever the outcome of the new diagnosis would be. After hearing Julia cry about how she could never experience motherhood, Jasmine told Julia, "One way or the other, you're gonna be an amazing mom." Jasmine herself is pregnant now, despite having faced fertility struggles in the past. Jasmine had to take an injection every day when she was pregnant with her son JC. Julia didn't share if Jasmine's pregnancy journey inspired her to explore one of her own. However, Julia is calling herself a mom on social media, and she didn't need to experience pregnancy for that to happen. Julia took to Instagram after the episode to share an emotional post. Julia wrote, "For today's episode, all this is a game changer for me, my well-being, and our relationship." Julia admitted that she was hesitant to open up as someone who has never tried therapy. She thought she was strong and self-sufficient, but realized that vulnerability is a sign of courage and not weakness. Julia is proud to say that she has started embracing her emotions and allows herself to be vulnerable. Julia mentioned that coming to terms with her feelings had been an incredibly liberating experience and that she was grateful for it. She spoke about the babies she already has, adding, "I give all the love and care from my heart," and added the hashtag #dogmom to describe herself. Julia posted several pictures of her German Shepherd babies. Julia told her 90-day, The Last Resort viewers, "I have 2 babies," as they told her that her fur baby family was inspiring and that dogs needed moms too, especially ones like Julia.